So my question, Bertha, is: are we waiting for more people?
I'm
not in a rush.
Wait another minute, and then I'll start the program.
No problem.
Let's wait a minute.
Okay.
Karen Rothman is actually going to start open the meeting, and then I'll go from there, as I wrote to you.
I'm
Right.
patient, no problem. So I'll just say something about Israel and COVID. The numbers really dropped dramatically in the last month and a half, since more than 5.5 million people are fully vaccinated, and 2.5 million are children under the age of 16, so they can't even get the vaccine. This is 8 million. And then we have another 800,000 people that sadly got the COVID, so they recovered from it. And we have a few hundreds of thousands, probably 500,000 of adults that don't want to get the vaccine. So I would say that most of the adult population got the vaccine already. And just earlier this week, they allowed people to give up the masks in open spaces. So it made Israel really, like, life are almost back to normal. It's still new. We're still talking about this week. And we can be cautiously optimistic in regards to how it's going to look like in the next month. Because it seems like the vaccine, at least for the variants that we have so far, the South African, the British, and the, let's say, the old variant of the corona, the Pfizer vaccine, that's what we have in Israel, is working well. So it seems like. So yeah, I would say that many people are living their life here quite normally in the last few weeks, and especially this week. It seems like Israelis are not very disciplined, as maybe you know. So when they say to them, you can take off the mask in open spaces, they just forget it at home, and they go into buildings and into shops and into I hope you understand that the level of discipline in Israel, although we all served in the army, is surprisingly low. Or maybe unsurprisingly, based on what we read in the Bible. So we can, yeah, this is something to just to know about what's happening in Israel.
Well, thank you for the update. We're glad to hear that things are on the upswing and looking good. We're waiting for that to happen here. So now let me say good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to bring you updated on our next program, which is Monday, May 24th. Bob Waldman will present Sid Caesar, television's original comedy genius. This program will be online in the evening at 7:30. The Zoom link will be in the Daily Digest in May. Thank you all for participating in our programs. Hopefully by next fall, they will be in person again. If you have any questions regarding the BQLI Woman of Achievement Award, please email or call me. Thank you, and I'll turn the program over to Bertha.
Thank you, Karen. And again, also for me, welcome everybody to this tour, which will start presently. I just want to say a few words about Hadassah, since this is a Hadassah Sisterhood program. Hadassah, also during the COVID, has been really update and has done tremendous effort and a tremendous job in having patients and treating them and so forth. There's a new Hadassah radio program that I want to apprise you of. And it says, Hadassah believes that the work we do and the acts of service we provide must be ungirded with current information. To that end, a new radio series Hadassah Presents Women of Vision has been launched. Hadassah CEO Janice Wiseman is conducting interviews highlighting the visionary leadership and innovative approaches of women as they surmount the challenges in their respective fields. And you can listen to that on Talkline with Zev Brenner. Google Zev Brenner so you'll find out what time the program will be on. It should be, again, very interesting. And also, Professor Jacob Pierre, who's the head of the onco-ophthalmology department at Hadassah Hospital in Ain Kerem. And by the way, we had Professor Pierre at one of our meetings many years ago. Probably don't remember, but in any case, and he's become the first Israeli to win the prestigious Joanne G. Engel Award from the Association for Research in Vision and Ophthalmology, ARVO. The ARVO is the largest eye and vision research organization in the world, and is comprised of nearly 11,000 researchers from over 75 countries. ARVO's website describes the award as the highest service honor bestowed by ARVO to a volunteer professional. Today, the basic and clinical research in Hadassah's eye system is a leader in the country, and we're very proud of that. In Israel, going now to Yom Ha'atzmaut, in Israel, in order to be a realist, you must believe in miracles. David Ben-Gurion, 73 years ago, the world witnessed a miracle, the establishment of the state of Israel. A week ago, we celebrated Yom Ha'atzmaut, the fulfillment of the Zionist dream and the unmistakable mark Israel is leaving on the world. Hadassah has and will always stand with Israel, nurture its growth, and heal its people. And in honor of Yom Ha'atzmaut, we are having this tour today in Israel by tour guide Itamar Ben-David. And I'd like to just tell you a little bit about him before he goes on to his tour, okay? You must have read some of this, but for those who didn't, I'm going to tell you anyway. Itamar has 14 years of experience guiding thousands of tourists from all over the world in Israel in general and in Jerusalem in particular. He guided diplomats, journalists, delegations, and celebrities. Itamar's expertise is the Arab-Israeli conflict and has a rich background in the field. An Arabic-speaking officer active in the reserves, a graduate of the Department of Middle Eastern History at Tel Aviv University, project manager for the Arab Population and NPA, Nature and Parks Authority, and more. He develops content for the tourism and the VR tourism industry, and a musician. Itamar is married to Meital and lives in Jerusalem. And he was highly recommended on TripAdvisor. In addition to that, he established the Israel Virtual Tourism Association, and to train almost 200 tour guides that are not able to work due to COVID. Mr. Itamar Ben-David currently offers roughly 80 virtual tours. And I just want to let you know there was a really interesting and full article in the Jerusalem Post recently that tells all about him and his tours, and all about the possibilities of future virtual tours. And if any of you are interested, please let me know, and I will send you the link to the article in the Jerusalem Post. And now herewith, I present Itamar Ben-David, who will lead us to Hebron.
Thank you very much. I don't know who this Itamar is. So this is great. Thank you very much for that. And I will spotlight myself just so you'll find me over here. I'm in my home in Jerusalem, but behind me you can see the beautiful, huge and ancient olive trees just above. It's in Hebron. It's in Hebron, in the ancient hill of Hebron, and we'll get back to these beautiful trees later on. Right now, I do want to take you on a nice, pretty smooth flight. And the thing with virtual tourism, it really allows us to travel the world and see the world in ways that we've never really imagined possible from the comfort of our living room or bedroom, you know. So we are in Queens right now, okay, just over here. You recognize all of it. And let's fly now up from the US. And no need to get any insurance, no need to go through the hustle and security and all that. No need to get any, to pack anything, right? Very comfortable. We just crossed the Atlantic. We're above Spain. You can see North Africa and Southern Europe. Italy is very important and relevant for our story. The Roman Empire, we'll get back to it as the empire that took our independence from us 2,000 years ago. And in the national anthem, we do say that the hope, Hatikva, is 2,000 years old. Since when? Since the destruction of the temple. So we will get back to that. And since then, we have the hope to return back to our homeland, which is Israel, just over here. I believe most of you, if not all of you, have been to Israel. And if not, don't worry. We can travel it virtually in unbelievable ways. I've been guiding for so long, and still I'm surprised from what we can do and see with virtual tourism. So we'll give you a little taste of that, of course, today. But if you just want to remember the geography of it, this is the Mediterranean, of course, just over here. Down south, the city of Eilat and the Red Sea over here. This area is the Dead Sea. There's a little bit of writing, but you can still see the body of water just over here. This is the Sea of Galilee, and the Hermon Mountain is hiding over here. Between the Hermon Mountain and the Sea of Galilee, and from the Sea of Galilee down to the Dead Sea, we have the Jordan River. And the country itself is very, very small. I believe that on your tours, you've seen that. It's about 8 hours drive from the Hermon Mountain all the way south, about 400 miles, and about an hour and a half drive from the Mediterranean to the Jordan River. Depends exactly where you start your driving, but it's just very, very small, as you can see. And my plan for you today is to travel virtually. Again, now we are in Israel, but let's take a look at the holy cities of Israel. Clearly, we have Jerusalem. When we think of a holy city in Israel, we clearly think of Jerusalem. And virtually, we can even visit the old city. You can see it right over here. The Dome of the Rock is just hiding right over here. And virtually, I can even take you for just a quick visit to the Dome of the Rock. It's a place that most observant Jews would never even stand in, but virtually it's very, very easy. So let's see. No, sometimes it gets stuck. Wait, we'll give it another try. If not, then we'll move on. Here we are. Let's give it another try, maybe from this angle. Sometimes it's not perfect. Oh, here we are. So you can see, hopefully it will charge. Okay, if not, sometimes you see that the Google Earth is not perfect for us, and we'll move on. So right now, I'm moving on from Jerusalem, the holy city where the temple stood, to another city after the destruction of the temple and the exile of the Jews. A new center, a new important center of the Jews, of the rabbis, was in Tiberias, right by the Sea of Galilee that you see right over here. So we flew about 150 miles north, 120 miles north to Tiberias. That's what you see over here. Take look, the Sea of Galilee, Kinneret, Lake Kinneret, and in Tiberias, a thriving rabbinic culture developed for centuries, until somewhere in the 8th century, more or less. And then the new centers have developed. I'm moving now to another holy city before we get to Hebron, which is Safed, Tzfat. In Hebrew, as we say, Tzfat, the city of Tzfat. If you look at the beautiful alleys of Tzfat, maybe you remember these small, nice alleyways, okay, in Tzfat, lots of stone houses, stone buildings everywhere. So this is the city of Tzfat, and it's very famous for Kabbalah, the mystical Judaism, let's call it, and Kabbalah that developed mainly in Tzfat during the 15th, 16th century with Rabbi Ha'ari, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria Ashkenazi. So these are the 3 out of 4 holy cities. Now, interestingly enough, before we get to Hebron, I'll just say that each city of these 4 cities, 2 in the north, that's Tiberias and Safed over here, and 2 in the south, that's Jerusalem and Hebron, they represent the 4 elements. So we have the Sea of Galilee, Tiberias represents water. Tzfat, very high up, it's the highest city in Israel. It represents air, okay, spirituality, Kabbalah. Tiberias, water, not just because it's by the water, also the Mishnah and the oral traditions are represented by water as a source of life. Then we have Jerusalem with the altar and the burnt offerings, okay? So it represents fire, okay, fire. And now we're getting to Hebron, which represents earth, soil, maybe dirt, okay? So here we are in Hebron. Dirt, why is that? It's not in a negative, of course, connotation, right? We're talking about a very holy soil and land. So let's take a look at the city of the Patriarchs and the Matriarchs, the city of Hebron. And I'm going to visit with you the streets of Kiryat Arba. This is how you enter to the renewed community of Hebron. There is a town called Kiryat Arba, and from there you drive this way, turn left, and you're getting to Me'arat Hamachpela. So let's drive shortly, real quick. Okay, sometimes it gives us trouble, but we'll give it another try. Here we are. So over here, this is the ancient hill of Hebron. Today there's a nice garden over there. That's what you see here. And you saw the soldier, maybe. If you didn't, then let's get back to him again. See it again. Yeah, you see the soldier over here standing and guarding. So from here, you can actually see the city of Hebron on these hills. Don't worry, we'll see a few interesting pictures as we go. And our focus, of course, will be Me'arat Hamachpela, the tomb of the Patriarch and the tomb of the Patriarchs and the Matriarchs, our fathers and mothers in Hebron. This is exceptional. Usually it gives some trouble, but not so many troubles. So if it doesn't work, then okay, I'll move on to the presentation. This is just the plaza outside of it. So I'll move on now to the presentation and share this with you. Give me just a second. And here we go. So let's see that. This is the wall of Me'arat Hamachpela, the tomb of the Patriarchs. And I named this tour Hebron, the city of giants. Why giants? We'll see in a moment. So this is it. This is Me'arat Hamachpela, the tomb of the Patriarchs. It's a very ancient building. Some give it the record of 2,000 years old prayer place that is serving the same religious purpose, for 2,000 years. Okay, so we have few ancient, let's call it shrines or prayer place like that in Israel. like the Golden Dome, the Dome of the Rock, which is very ancient building, 1400 years old. This one is 2000 years old building with all kinds of additions that added to it in different time periods. You can see the minarets. This is clearly a Muslim phase of the structure, but the original building is this. Take a look at this massive wall and the beautiful pillars that you see over here. You can just see it over here. Okay, what is that all about? We will see in a moment. So this is how, next to that soldier that we saw earlier, this is how the view looks like from the hill of Hebron down to the valley where the tomb of the patriarchs is, the patriarchs and the matriarchs. That's the building that you see over here, okay? Sometimes for people, it's surprising. You would think, wait, Me'arat Hamachpela, it's such an elevated place, supposed to be the height, like on the top of the hill somewhere. But actually, no. And in the book of Bereshit, the book of Genesis, it actually says that it's the Valley of Hebron. That's how it's called, the Valley of Hebron. For example, Jacob sent his son Joseph to check on his brothers from the Valley of Hebron. He set him up north to find them. And we know how it ended up. He ended up in Egypt because of his brothers. But again, we know that Hebron itself, it's in a valley, not just the hill, but also the valley. And this is, again, the Valley of Hebron. You can see the hills around it. That's how Hebron looks like. Here is another picture from this view. You can see, again, Tomb of the Patriarch, this old structure. We'll see that. So we will take a look at Me'arat Hamachpela from inside. Don't worry, I just think that Google Earth needs a rest for some reason. So we will get back to them and see how it looks. So Hebron. At that time, Joshua went and destroyed the Anakites from the hill country, from Hebron, Dvir, and Anav, from all the hill country of Judah. Okay, now I want to focus on just one word over here, Anakites. Let's read a little more. Hebron used to be called Kiryat Arba. After Arba, there is a man called Arba, who was the greatest man among the Anakites. So again, we have this word that we have to find out what is that all about. Anakites, Anakim in Hebrew, means giants. I told you, it's the city of giants. So who are these giants? I'm not talking yet, not yet, about the patriarchs and the matriarchs. I'm talking about giants that lived there once upon a time, okay? One of them, his name is Arba. Remember the town that I mentioned just next to Hebron, Kiryat Arba, okay? So we have a modern settlement, a modern town, about 8,000 or maybe 9,000 people, just next to Hebron, and it's called Kiryat Arba after the ancient name of Hebron. This is how it looks like, from one giant to the next. This is the tomb of Abraham, what you see, or the marking place of the tomb of Abraham. And you can see that behind these bars, there is this sarcophagus, I would say. No one thinks that his bones are inside of it. This is marking his ancient tomb. Where is the tomb? Probably a few feet under. We know of ancient tombs that were carved into the ground, into the rock, as ancient as 3,500, 3,800. We call that Bronze Age, 3,800 years ago. Okay, we're talking about very, very ancient tombs that were found at the bottom. Right now, when you visit the tomb of Machpelah, it's not like, again, this sarcophagus is not the place where it is, but really, this is the closest we can get to Abraham, right over here. And if you read Hebrew, you can clearly read over here, Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu, the marking place of the tomb of Avraham Avinu. And the same thing over here, the man that was chosen by God to connect between him and mankind and to be a blessing for all of mankind through his family. From Abraham, the blessing passed to Isaac and to Jacob and so on and so forth to Israel. Right now, we're looking at Sarah. Sarah's tomb. So you can read right over here, Sarah right over here. So amazing again to just see these places. And every time I visit Hebron, this is just unbelievable that we can actually visit it. And around it, you can see some Arabic inscriptions, okay, from the old phase of the tomb of the patriarchs, okay, and we will see how it moved on with history. So Abraham went to live near the great trees of Mamre at Hebron, where he pitched his tent. There he built an altar to the Lord. So we're talking about Abraham coming from Ur-Kasdim, somewhere in Iraq, all the way to Israel, and he builds altars in a few places. One of them, of course, is Hebron, where he settled for a while, and he was going in between cities like Hebron to Beersheba, land of Grar. He was walking around, and you can read that in the book of Bereshit. Sarah lived to be 127 years old. She died at Kiryat Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan, and Abraham went to mourn for Sarah and to weep over her. Now, I was born in Parashat Chaye Sarah, the parasha that speaks exactly about that. And for my bar mitzvah, I trained enough for my parasha. So if you don't mind, I want to read it to you in the Moroccan style. So I'm reading to you this verse just over here. ויהיו חיי שרה 100 שנה ו20 שנה ו7 שנים שני חיי שרה ותמת שרה בקריית ארבע היא חברון בארץ כנען ויבוא אברהם לספוד לשרה ולבכותה. So this is the sound of the Moroccan reading of the Torah. I don't know if you had the chance to read that. The Sephardi, let's say, way to read the Torah. And because again, this is my bar mitzvah, the parasha for my bar mitzvah, I feel very much connected to these verses. And then I'll show you again a few verses every now and then, a few pictures. We'll move from that to the pictures. He said to them, to the people, the Hittites of Hebron, if you are willing to let me bury my dead, then listen to me and intercede with Ephron. There is a man called Ephron, and the land is his, son of Zohar, on my behalf. So he will sell me the cave of Machpela, which belongs to him and is at the end of his field. Ask him to sell it to me for the full price as a burial site among you. So this is the first land that was purchased in the land of Israel, back then Canaan, but the land of Israel. And there are a few places like that in the Bible that the Gentiles, the non-Jews, cannot say that are stolen by the Jews, which is Hebron. Again, Abraham bought it fair and square. The mountain of Moriah, that was purchased by King David from Aravna the Jebusite, and Nablus, back then the city of Shechem, that a land from it was purchased by Jacob. So these are important places in the deep Palestinian areas, which I will refer to later on, that were purchased by the patriarchs. Afterward, Abraham buried his wife Sarah in the cave in the field of Machpela near Mamre, which is Hebron, etc., etc. So this is again one of those ancient tombs from inside. That's how it looks like with all the decorations. You can see again all kinds of decorations from Islamic period. You can see the Arabic verses over here. So this is again the beauty of this cave. And then Isaac and Rebekah. Take a look at this love story, really. Abraham and Sarah, now we have Isaac and Rebekah. Jacob came home to his father Isaac in Mamre, near Kiryat Arba, where Abraham and Isaac had stayed. Okay, so this is Abraham, now we're Isaac. We see that the verses are very clear that this is where this family is residing. Okay, so right now I'm showing you the tombs of Leah and Yaakov. Leah and Jacob, okay, over here. And you would ask, hey, wait, you jumped from the grandfather straight to the grandson. What happened? Where is Isaac? Okay, so I will explain that later on, but I'll just say that since the 90s, since there was a massacre, if you remember, in the Hamachpela, there is no entrance to Jews into Isaac hole. That's how it's called, Isaac and Rebekah's hole. That's what you see here. And beside of 10 days of the year, there are 10 days where Jews are allowed to visit Isaac's and Rebekah's hole. And this is again a beautiful part of Me'arat Hamachpela. So there was a division since the 90s between Arabs and Jews, again, sadly, because of the attack that took place over here. So again, you can see the decorations, you can see the location, the marking place of the tombs, and you can also see it's a Muslim area. You can see the Muslims praying over here. Okay, so that's again how it looks like. Let's see if now it will be a little more friendly. Yeah, okay, it's a little more friendly now. Sometimes it gets stuck. I have no idea why. We've seen this picture earlier, and I want to move on to the main prayer hall to show you where Jews are praying today. Here we are, thank God. You can see it right here. And this is an open area, actually, of the tomb of the patriarchs. So they closed it with this shade. That's how it looks like today. And let's visit the next hall. Jacob on one side and Leah on the other side. This is Me'arat Hamachpela. So this is how it looks like. That's what I want to share with you. This is how the rooms look like. Okay, the prayer place, Abraham and Sarah on this side. It looks exactly the same. So this is Me'arat Hamachpela, and I believe that if you want to say a little prayer, even for yourself, or even if you want to write something on the chat as we are visiting these giants. Okay, we talked about other giants earlier, but as we are visiting these giants, you can also say a little prayer, or write maybe in the chat a little prayer and share it with the other ladies. That will be the other participants. That would be great. Okay. So he said to him, go and see if all is well with your brothers. This is Jacob speaking to Joseph and sending him from, that's what I mentioned. Oh, here, now you can see. He's sending Joseph from Hebron, from the valley of Hebron, to meet his brothers. So as we see, the valley of Hebron is actually a phrase from the Bible, and this again explains the geography of Hebron, not just the hills, but also the valleys where they have stayed. So the prayer hall. Now we're moving to the Exodus, and this is fascinating. So I do think that the verses matter, and we'll see again, we'll go back and forth with the pictures, and I think someone wrote some prayer. Oh, wow. Thank you very much, Iris, for sharing. So they went up and explored the land from the desert of Zin as far as Rehov towards Levo Hamat, and went up through the Negev and came to Hebron, where Achiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the descendants of Anak, lived. Who are these people? Who are these people that are walking? We're talking about the spies, the 12 spies that were sent by Moses to explore the land. They are entering to Israel from Hebron. And Hebron is mentioned again as the city of giants, Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, descendants of Anak, like the Anakites that we mentioned earlier. So they are still giants when they are visiting Israel. And this is exactly what the spies will say to Moses and to the elders. They would say, we were visiting Hebron and other cities. And why Hebron? Why starting in Hebron even? Because this is the city of the patriarchs. They wanted to connect to the patriarchs and the matriarchs, get some power before they explore the rest of the land. But something they saw in Hebron really bothered them, the spies. And what did they do? And what did they say? we saw the Nephilim. Nephilim is another name for giants. We saw the Nephilim. They are the descendants of Anak. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. This is a key verse. This is a key verse in the story of the Exodus. In fact, the spies entered the land of Israel after 1 year, wandering in the desert for 1 year. And because of this sin of the spies, we had to wander for another 39 years in the desert until all of that generation died and perished, beside of two people, two spies, Joshua and Caleb. Joshua and Caleb, they actually said, the land is great. The bunch of grapes that we got to you is amazing. The food is amazing. And the Anakites, yes, they are Anakites. They are giants, but we will defeat them. We are capable of defeating them. They did not saw themselves. Caleb and Joshua didn't think of themselves as grasshoppers. Okay, so sometimes the Jewish people think of itself as grasshopper. We're so small, only 14 or 15 million people. We were scattered all over. We're like little grasshoppers. But God says, no, I'm with you. You are capable. You are capable of getting your independence back. And this is exactly what happened. Thanks to Hashem, this has actually happened in our generation. So this is the area where the spies entered from. What I'm showing you is the slopes of the mountain of Hebron down towards Beersheba and Arad. Okay. That's the terrain, really. This is the landscape where the spies actually walked. So they came from the desert, from, let's say, deep over here. They start to walk through here and up to Hebron, Okay, that's, again, the terrain. Today, near where they passed, there is the ancient city of Arad, and this is just a little bit of it. It's not really a part of our tour today, but we'll move on. I believe that when they came to Hebron, they drank some water from the spring of Sarah. And that's how we call, from the spring of Abraham. This is what you see over here. It's an ancient spring and stairs, and this whole complex over there is quite ancient. I believe they drank from the water that are right over here. This is a spring on really the hill of Hebron. And with that, we're moving from the books of the Torah to Joshua. Hebron used to be called Kiryat Arba after Arba. We've talked about this giant, who was the greatest man among the Anakites. Okay, we talked about that. And from Hebron, Caleb drove out the 3 Anakites. Remember the giants that the spies mentioned? Caleb is now defeating them. Sheshai, Achiman, Talmai. There he's defeating them. From there, he marched against the people living in Dvir. And over there, he said, okay, I want someone else to fight for me. And whoever will fight for me, I will give my daughter Achsa. Okay, I'll give my daughter Achsa to him. So who is fighting? A man called Othniel, son of Knaz, Caleb's brother. Okay, Caleb's brother. Is he his real brother or not? It's a question, but the thing is that, let's say he is really his brother. He's basically getting married to his niece. Why am I teaching you that? Why am I teaching you the marriage, how these marriages in the ancient world worked? I want to remind you that Abraham got married to his niece. Sarah is his niece. She's the daughter of his dead brother Haran. Why is that so important? Why these marriage customs are so important? I want to write a word in Hebrew. And please, if one of you kindly could open the microphone and read what I just wrote to you over here. If one of you knows Hebrew well and can read that. David, you would say David, exactly. So David, like King David, okay? Or if
I was going to say Dod.
Exactly. And what is Dod in Hebrew?
Uncle.
Exactly. So we see that there is a strong connection in the Hebrew language between the word David, the beloved one, and Dod, the uncle, is actually the beloved one, because he is really getting married to his nieces. Usually they got married to their nieces. Okay. So there is an ancient word in Hebrew for love, not ahava. Ahava is ancient too, but I'm talking about another word that is mentioned in Bereshit, dodim. Dodim means love, okay? It's coming from the word dod, uncle, okay? So we see that the uncle is actually the one that the girls used to get married to. Because you're Hadassah women, what is Mordechai for Hadassah?
Niece.
His niece.
That's exactly
niece
right. You see this connection is all over the Bible. You'll see that. So the word Dod or David, okay, is connected to love. And this is just few examples out of many, actually. I'm moving now from the book of Joshua to the book of Judges. This man over here is carrying huge doors up the hill. This man is Samson, and I used the pictures of Gustave Doré, the French artist that draw the Bible, etc. So you can see him carrying the gates of Gaza up to Hebron, and we'll understand something about that. Samson went to Gaza, he was with a prostitute, and then he left in the middle of the night, and he carried, where is that? Took hold of the doors of the city gate. Okay, he's carrying the doors of Gaza with him, and what he's doing with them, he lifted them to his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. Okay, the hill that faces Hebron. Again, another indication Hebron is actually in a valley, not in the top of the mountain. But why is that important? It's important to show us that Samson, a judge from the tribe of Dan, he's fighting on his own. He's fighting the Philistines on his own, and now he's asking the help of the Judeans that live in Hebron, and he tells them, come, let's conquer Gaza. I just took their doors, and we can defeat them. They don't have any protection. And what does the people of Judea, the people of Hebron do? They tell him, not now. We'll turn you over to the Philistines. Why? Because there is a nature in the people of Judea, okay, to be very patient, very, very patient. They don't immediately think, okay, we can defeat them now, let's fight. No, they are very patient, like a lion. Lion is the symbol of the tribe of Judah, and they are waiting for the right timing. And only generations after Samson, in the days of David, they will defeat the Philistines. Okay, there was something about the waiting. The Jewish people were waiting, I believe, long enough to get their independence back. And I believe this is some quality, I guess, that we got from our ancient ancestors, the people of Hebron, the people of Judea. Okay. Right now, I want to show you this. What you see over here is the marking place of, it's a traditional tomb. This is a medieval tradition, that this is the tomb of Yishai and Ruth, Jesse and Ruth. That's the names that you see over here, Jesse and Ruth. So there is something very interesting about Jesse and Ruth. Okay, Ishai is the father of David. Ruth is his grandmother, basically, his grandmother. And I want to remind you, she's a Moabite. She's actually from Transjordan. She's not from here. And there is an ancient midrash that says that Ruth is actually a daughter of one of the giants, Eglon, the king of Moab. Eglon, the king of Moab. So not only that she is foreign woman, okay, she's Moabite, she's also descendants of these ancient enemies, these ancient giants that demoralized the people of Israel when they wanted to conquer the land. Okay, so it shows us something about the nature of Ruth. She is such a righteous woman. She's such a righteous woman that said to Naomi, I will follow you no matter what. Your God is my God. Your people is my people. I will walk, whatever happens to you, I want to tie my destiny with you. So this righteous woman wanted to join the Jewish people, back then, the children of Israel, of course, and the tribe of Judah. And she got to be the great grandmother of the greatest king, of King David, and we'll move on to him. What I'm showing you now is something, it's a map. You can see the map of the 12 tribes. I mentioned earlier Samson, who's coming from the tribe of Dan. If it's too small, sorry. I hope you are able to see that. If you're on your phone, maybe it's a little difficult, but I'm trying to draw this. You can see the tribe of Dan, again, facing the Philistines, fighting the Philistines for so long. So the next neighbor is Judah. That's why Samson is asking Judah, Judah, fight with me, okay? But of course, they were patient. They were waiting. Right now, I want to focus on two cities in the tribe, within the tribe of Judah. Bethlehem, over here, not too far from Jerusalem, maybe 6 minutes drive from where I live, and Hebron, over here, in the hinterland of the tribe of Judah. Hebron is the capital of the tribe of Judah. It's the capital of the tribe of Judah, meaning that if a little shepherd from a little town called Bethlehem is coming to greatness, what is that all about? It's crazy. Okay, if we're looking for a king, we should find him in the big city, in the capital, in Hebron. Okay, but as you can see, God has his own ways, and he's chose a sweet shepherd with red hair maybe, or reddish colors, with ginger. He chose him to be the king. Okay, he was anointed by King Samuel. So from being a shepherd and being a musician, playing music to the sheep, he became the warrior and the king, and the king of Israel, the Messiah. Messiah is another name for king. So in the old city, we have this lady. Her name is Cherut, which means freedom in Hebrew, and she's playing playing the harp. Sometimes within the walls of Jerusalem. It's just beautiful to listen to her music. So again, a little bit like King David himself. I want to go back to these trees that I showed you earlier and tell you something about these ancient trees. These trees are probably 400, 500 years old, but there's a nature to the olive trees that they can't really die. You know, they live forever. How? Because they have little shoots coming from their roots, like that. Maybe I'll draw it with a better color. You know, I'll use the green color. So they have little shoots coming from their roots and from their trunk. And even if the main trunk dies and really eats itself from inside, just hollow inside, the shoots would live after him. So you can actually see that these trees can rejuvenate themselves and live forever, in a way, kind of like the Jewish people. And when you look at the menorah and the two branches of olives in the symbol of the state of Israel, it's a part of that. It's the prophecy of Zechariah, but it's also a part of this idea that this is a symbol of the olive trees that live forever. This is like the people of Israel. So this is, again, these beautiful trees. Another thing to know about them, that the olives, they have the quality first press. We call that virgin olive oil. Virgin olive oil in Hebrew is mishcha. And the one that is anointed with the virgin olive oil is called Mashiach, Messiah. So even the name Messiah, Mashiach, is coming from the olive oil and the olive trees. So of course, King David is the Messiah. And with that, I want to show you a few other things and take a look. The stairs that you see over here were found in archaeological excavations that took place after 1967, after the Six-Day War. And these stairs are ancient as Bronze Age, meaning more than 3,000 years old, 3,500, 3,600 years old stairs, ancient stairs, and ancient fortifications of the city. So you can see in the top of the mountain of Hebron, the hill of Hebron, there are lots of remains, different walls, mainly from Iron Age, actually, from the days of the Judean kings, not necessarily David himself, but his descendants like Hezekiah, Josiah, and many other important kings. And in Hebron, we've found these seals, many seals. We found them by the hundreds. And I don't read ancient Hebrew, but what it says over here in the lower part, it's Lamelech. Lamelech meaning to the king. To the king. Okay, Lamelech. That's how we would write it in Hebrew. To the king. Which king? The king of Judea. The king of Judea. This was probably like a tax system that they had over there, that the jars were sealed like that. And it says from Hebron to the king. Okay, from Hebron to the king as part of their taxation. On the Palestinian side, I must say, we cannot visit it since the Second Intifada. We can't really visit these places. I mentioned earlier Othniel ben Knaz, the relative of, or maybe the brother of Kalev ben Yefuneh. And this is the traditional burial place of Othniel ben Knaz. He was also the first judge, very important man. It's on the Palestinian side of the city. Don't worry if you don't understand what it means, the Jewish side, the Palestinian side. Wait, we'll get to it. Again, on the Palestinian side, we also have the Oak of Mamre. There is an ancient tradition that this is Aloneh Mamre, the place where Abraham settled. Maybe this is the ancient oak or a descendant of that ancient oak, okay? Maybe not that old. This is not a 3,000 years old tree or 3,800 years old tree, but this is a pretty ancient tree. So this is the traditional place, and there is a church over there, actually. There is a site called Mamre, mainly from the Roman period, Hellenistic and Roman period, and that's how it looks like. And this was like a later the Byzantine, the Christians also sanctified it and made it a holy site for them as the place where Abraham lived. You can actually see some of these stones right over here. And now I'm moving back to the Me'arat Hamachpela, to the tomb of the Patriarchs, to show you something really amazing. This was built by King Herod. King Herod, the famous king that built Caesarea, built Masada, built Jerusalem. He also built Me'arat Hamachpela. And how do we know that? Take a look at the style. You can't mistake that. And Josephus Flavius mentioned that it's like this is a Herodian building for sure. And I want to show you how closely it looks like to another famous wall, the Western Wall. Take a look just in front of you. This is the Western Wall here. You see the stones with like the frames. You can actually see there is a nice frame to each stone. Okay, if you look carefully, each stone has a chiseled frame like that, and so does in the Western Wall, just like that, the same style. Another thing that we can see at the Western Wall is the destruction. You can see over here that this rubble, this pile of stones over here was discovered after the 6-day war and shows us the destruction by the Roman Empire that we mentioned just a little bit earlier in the session. So this is really from the days of the destruction at 70 CE, almost 2,000 years ago. And a little bit after the destruction of the temple, I'm talking about 60 years later, a man called Adrian, this Caesar that you see in front of you, a man called Adrian, oppressed another revolt of the Jews against Rome, a revolt that was supposed to lead to an independence of the Jewish people. So there was the first revolt, it failed. There was a second revolt, it's known as the Bar Kokhba revolt, and it was brutally oppressed. It was a Holocaust. I must say it was a Holocaust. 40% of the Jews that lived in Judea back then were killed. 600,000 Jews. And these are not just random estimations. We have, like, it's agreed among scholars that this is probably the lowest number, 600,000. Maybe it was even more than that. 40% of the people, of the Jewish people in Judea were massacred during the oppression of this revolt, again by this man, Caesar Adrian. Since then, Jews were not allowed to live in Judea. And not only that they were not allowed to live in Judea, Adrian also changed the name of the province after the enemies of the ancient Israelites, the Philistines. He named the province of Judea the province of Palestine. So if you are wondering where is the name Palestine from, it's coming from the Philistine, and the man that changed the name of the province was Adrian that you see in front of you. Okay, there's much to see in the other parts of Hebron. I'll just mention this real quick, and I want to show you an interview I made with one of the people who lives in Hebron. So this is a Jewish town called Susia. It's a little bit southern from Hebron, and Jews lived there for centuries, more than 500 years after the oppression of that revolt. And I want to show you the synagogue of this community. And what is so special about this community is that there's a lot of Kohens, lots of priests, lots of Kohens in this community. You can see the menorahs over here on the right and on the left. You see that? The menorahs here and on this side. Okay, beautiful menorahs. And there were lots of, as I said, lots of Kohens over there that preserved the traditions of the temple and the traditions of the priests. And I'm especially interested in this little inscription because I find it very entertaining, and I think you could relate to our ancestors this way. So this inscription says the following: remember, for good memory, Rabbi Isi HaKohen, Isi the priest, the honorable priest, son of Rabbi, that made this mosaic and put plaster on the walls of this synagogue, and what he volunteered to donate in the party. There was a party, okay, and he wanted to be remembered for someone that gave charity or gave, donation to the shul. And also remember Rabbi Yochanan HaKohen, also another priest, HaKohen, and his son, peace upon Israel, amen. And you can actually, if you read Hebrew, you can actually read the words. This is from 1500 years ago, and you can still read that. Amen. Take a look. Amen. Israel, over here. Shalom, just over here. Okay, I didn't make this mosaic. This is 1500 years old mosaic. You can actually read that. This is pretty amazing to see our ancestors really saying hi to us from afar. So I'll skip this one a little bit, okay? And I want to just jump forward to bad days to Israel. Under the Mamluks, for 700 years, Jews were expelled from Hamachpela. The Mamluks are Muslim rulers, and they said Jews are not allowed to enter the tombs of the patriarchs. And for 700 years, we couldn't do that. Until also in 1929, there was a massacre that took place in Hebron. More than 60 men, women, and children were massacred, including in this place, Beit Hadassah, which is the museum. Again, Beit Hadassah, it was a clinic back then, and the Arabs really invaded it and started to massacre the people inside of it. And today there is a museum that commemorates the story of Hebron and also the pogrom that took place in Hebron in 1929. And I spared you the horrors of the massacre and the terrible photos from that. Take a look at the stones and the desecration of the tombstones over here, and you can understand what happened to the people. So it was really a terrible massacre for ancient Jewish community in Hebron that took place back then. And in 1967, the Six-Day War, and we are approaching Jerusalem Day and the annual day anniversary of the Six-Day War. Rabbi Goren was the one that put an Israeli flag on the top of Me'arat HaMachpelah, took the key from the Muslim guards, and since then it's open for Jews again. I mentioned the massacre earlier and the division in the Me'arat HaMachpelah since the 90s. So sadly, the Hall of Isaac is not really accessible. Since 1997, there is a division between the Jewish and the Arab part of Hebron. H1 is Palestinian, H1, and H2 is controlled by Israel. And the little neighborhoods that you see in purple over here, this is the Jewish community of Hebron. I'm mentioning that because I want to introduce you to Ishai that I interviewed earlier today for our tour. So this is, again, the community in Hebron lives in a narrow corridor that you see over here between Kiryat Arba to Me'arat HaMachpelah, tomb of the patriarchs that you see over here. Let me just draw this, maybe it will be easier for you. Again, from Kiryat Arba to the tomb of the patriarchs that you see over here. And there are a few areas where Jews live today. And with that, I'll move forward to the interview. I think you'll find it fascinating. It's about 10 minutes. I hope you don't have to leave because I really think it will make you optimistic. So please stay with me a little longer. Ishai Fleischer, the international spokesperson of the community of Hebron. Welcome and thank you for giving us a little bit of your time. I would love if you can introduce yourself and tell us about the community.
Thank you very much, Itamar, and thank you to everybody for coming virtually to Hebron today. Hebron is the original capital of Judea. It's where King David was king first. Before he moved to Jerusalem, this is where his tribe had its capital, which is Hebron. And before that, it's the first purchase of the Jewish people in the land of Israel. It's Abraham's purchase. It's really Abraham's city in that sense. He actually bought a plot of land in Hebron. And it was not just for dying, for being buried, but it's also for living. And Rashi explains to us that this is the place where he really lived the majority of his life. So Hebron is filled with firsts. And at the same time, it's a place that has had almost an unbroken Jewish presence for the last 3,800 years. That's a long time. For example, in the seventh step, when the Jewish people prayed at the seventh step, we prayed there from 1267 to 1967. For 700 years, we were outside of our own building. But that shows the Jewish tenacity of holding on to the land. In the latest iteration of the effort to undermine the Jewish story, somehow Hebron has been painted as an Arab city instead of a fundamental cradle of Jewish civilization. And the way that we at the Hebron Jewish community, at the Hebron Fund, fight that is by bringing tourism and teaching about the place. We brought, before COVID, over 1 million tourists a year to Hebron, and always by beautifying and keeping the place accessible and making it less scary and more awesome for what it really is. For when you come to Hebron, you really feel the roots. One of the greatest times in Hebron is right after Sukkot. We have Parshat Chayei Sarah, the Torah portion of Chayei Sarah. This is the Torah portion that delineates the purchase of Abraham of the Marat Hamachpela to bury his beloved wife Sarah. And we have about 35,000 people that come on that Shabbat to Kiryat Arba in Hebron to join us and to send a message. I think it's a message that's a cross between Woodstock and the Bible, which is we're here. This is where we've always been, and this is the heart of our story. And it's really a story of love, and that's one thing about Hebron, which maybe is kind of overlooked in this tense period that we live in. The truth is that it's about couples. It's not. Sometimes people mistake. They say, who's buried at Marat Hamachpela? They say Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, and Leah. That's not correct. The truth is it's Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebecca, Jacob and Leah together. Some people say Adam and Eve, and some other people say, even the deep Kabbalah says that even Moses and Tzipporah. There are couples. It's a place of love. You remember the tagline for Virginia. Virginia is for lovers. And that's what I like to say about Hebron. Hebron is for lovers. It's even about the love between Arabs and Jews, because if you remember, it was Ishmael who came together with Isaac to bury their beloved father. And so it's a place where things kind of meet and come together. Even the kingdom of Saul is represented by Avner ben Ner and by Ishbosheth together, close to where King David was. There's like all these things that come together in Hebron. But sadly, we live in a time where people want to undermine that togetherness and that city of love by creating a narrative of fear, by creating a narrative of danger. And the way to beat that is to actually show up and to come here and to really get juiced up by Judea, right? Getting the Judean flavor and spirit. And we're waiting for you here at the city of love and the city of Abraham, Hebron.
Please tell us a little bit. I will ask you two questions. How many people live in Hebron, and who are they, if you can describe it a little bit? And also, after we had last year the Abrams Accord with the United Arab Emirates, if you can tell us a little bit about your expectations and how should it impact your community?
Well, we have about 1,000 Jews that live in Hebron and about 9,000 Jews that live in our sister city, Kiryat Arba. So we have about 10,000 Jews. But the city of Hebron, the Arab city of Hebron, has about 200,000 Arabs. So we're about 10,000 Jews amongst 200,000 Arabs. And we're the only Jewish city within Palestinian Authority-controlled area. So we have, on the one hand, we have tensions with the Palestinian Authority, who is responsible for all the infrastructure, even the Jewish infrastructure. On the other hand, we also have some friends, including the Jabri clan, which a few years ago we went to their iftar meal, the Ramadan iftar meal, and we have good relations with some of the Arab communities, especially the Jabri clan, and then we have tension with other ones. And that's really because of the Palestinian Authority's propaganda against Jewish presence in the heartland of Judea. With regarding to the Abraham Accords, well, we're the place where Abraham is buried and where he lived. And there's a lot of interest of the folks in the Emirates to come and visit us there. And we are looking forward to seeing them. We're looking forward to seeing them there. We also have our own internal Abraham Accords, or our relationship with the Arabs that we're trying to grow all the time. And again, it's a mixed bag, because on the one hand, the mayor of Arab Hebron today is a guy by the name of Tiasir Abu Snena, who in 1980 was involved in the murder of 6 Jews, right outside of Beit Hadassah. And so that's a problem. But on the other hand, we have the Jabri clan and others who want decent relationship, who are, I would say, pro-Israel Palestinians, who live in Hebron and want to see things change and want the benefits of the Abraham Accords, the regional accords, for themselves as well. So, it's a mixed bag, but we keep moving forward. We know that this is our homeland. We know this is our heartland. The Torah reminds us, the Bible reminds us about the importance of this place. Ben Gurion called it the sister city of Yerushalayim, and we're trying to make it, as I tell everybody, let's be a proud number 2. All right, let's be a great number 2. Second place to Jerusalem is awesome. So Jerusalem is maybe the heart, maybe we're the mind, or maybe it's the opposite way. But you want both of those things to really work in Am Yisrael. And when you have these holy and historic places and their narratives clear to people, then we're a stronger nation for it.
I heard once from one of the people of Hebron that I am not saying it correctly, something like it's better to be a lazy person, a batlan in Hebron, than to study Torah in Jerusalem, or something of that sort. If you, I'm sure you're not lazy over there in Hebron, and vice versa. I actually, quite the opposite. I want to ask you: is there anything we can do to support you? Is there any project that you're promoting right now? So if you can.
Well, we're always involved in the thank you for asking. We're always involved in the projects of increasing tourism and beautifying Marat Hamachpela, because we believe in the mitzvah, and our main mitzvah is Kibud Av V'Em, honoring our fathers and mothers. And so if you want to be involved in Kibud Av V'Em, which is such a primal mitzvah, which the Torah tells you, gives you long life, then Kibud Av V'Em is what we do and what we're about. And our fundraising wing for those actions is the Hebron Fund, hebronfund.org. The fund also helps soldiers. We've got about 1,000 soldiers stationed in and around Hebron, and we want them to have an awesome experience. We want all these Jews, Tel Aviv Jews, if you will, Jews from all over the country, to have an awesome experience. So we make sure that they're fed and barbecued, and that they're warm in the winter, and that they're cool in the summer. So we do all kinds of stuff to make sure that the soldiers have a great experience, and it's a real Kiddush Hashem. So on the one hand, we take care of the fathers and mothers. On the other hand, we take care of the banim, the children who are in the IDF. And myself, I'm always involved in projects to beautify both the Marat Hamachpela and other important areas there. For example, right now, I'm going to be hiring one of the great graffiti artists, Solomon Souza, to help me make a beautiful mural. We have a giant wall that the army built at Kever Ruth Yishai, the tomb of Ruth and Yishai. There's a giant wall there, and I want to paint the whole Davidic dynasty, the whole story from Kalev and Othniel ben Knaz and David HaMelech and Avigail and Ruth and Yishai. And we want to paint a whole big mural there. So if people are interested in beautification and bringing this place to life, we believe in Tchiyat HaMeitim, but the resurrection of the dead. There's all kinds of resurrections out there. When you beautify a place, You're really resurrecting it. You're giving it life. And that's what we're doing in Hebron every day through the Hebron Fund, hebronfund.org.
Yes. So thank you very much for your time. You're glowing and I'm glowing from happiness just to see you over there. So thank you very much for your time and appreciate that you dedicated to it. Thank you all for being with me. I hope you enjoyed the interview and enjoyed the session. And I'm here for any question. I know we are a bit over time, but I'm happy to hear you. I know some of you have to leave. It's fine. There is a recording for that. And if they wanted to finish and see the last few minutes, don't worry, I will send it over. So if you have any questions, please feel absolutely free to ask. I'm here with you.
Anybody have any questions? It was a very comprehensive tour, and you really told us quite a lot. You know, we read in the Bible, but you showed us, which was wonderful. I just have a quick question. You said Kiryat Arba. Why is it named Arba, who was actually one of the giants?
It's the ancient name of Hebron. Kiryat means village or town. Right. Arba is the town of this man called Arba. So when Abraham came, that's how it was known as Kiryat Arba, the town of that giant. And Kiryat Arba is Hebron. Just like today, I believe there are other places like, what should I say? I'm trying to think of a nice example. Yeah, like Jerusalem, okay, in the ancient time, it was known as the city of the Jebusites. Okay, so today no one uses that. No one says Ir Yevus, the city of the Jebusites. We just say Yerushalayim. So in time, it doesn't really matter. The Kiryat Arba is kind of forgotten, or Ir Yevus, the city of the Jebusites, was forgotten, or Ephrat. Ephrat is Bethlehem. Bethlehem. That's how the Bible says. Ephrat and Bethlehem is the same place. So I believe you know Ephrat. There are lots of American Jews over there, which is near Bethlehem. But today, Bethlehem is one city, Palestinian city, and Ephrat is a Jewish town, Jewish little town, a bit south from it. So these are biblical names that once referred to the same place, and today we use it a little differently. So this is where, again, it's coming from. There you go.
Well, I just want to tell you that next time I come to Israel, I'm going to visit Hebron. Really, as I told you before, you know, and all the times that I've been, I don't know why, but we've never been to Hebron. So that's my next stop when I go.
You won't regret it. I'm sure you'll find this place fascinating. I'm here for you, dear ladies. If you want to ask me anything, respond. I'm not in a rush. I'm with you. I know some of you are in a rush, but I want to allow you the time and space to absorb and to ask. Yes, Carol?
Yes, I have a question. In the room with the quotation, with the Mosaic quotation, there are the menorahs on the wall, and underneath them, about 2 rows underneath them, a very odd symbol. I thought,
Oops.
That looks to me too much like a
swastika.
Swastika,
Yeah, I can assure you it has nothing to do with the Nazi party.
Oh, I'm sure it does.
It was just a famous decoration in the Roman world, and it's actually an Indian symbol. I think there is a difference between the swastikas that faces right to the one that faces left. Anyway, we have those in Israel and in synagogues, in churches, in again ancient churches, of course, in the temple. In the temple itself, we know that the decorations in some parts of the temple were kind of like swastikas, like you see over here. We found them, so we know these were the decorations. So this again has nothing to do with evil like that. It's just
found it peculiar that it looks so much like Thank you.
You're welcome, Carol.
I was at an Indian museum near I think it was Niagara Falls, and they said the symbol was for peace. That symbol was a peace symbol.
Yeah, wealth or fertility. I can't remember right now, but yeah, it was it used to have a very positive connotation, and of course, it's changed in the course of the 20th century. Welcome, Aviva, and thank you very much for being with us. If you have to leave, anyone else? Please feel free.
I guess your presentation was very comprehensive.
Look, I will send Bertha my information. I'll send Bertha a few links and the link to the presentation. If you guys want to share this with friends or family, you're welcome to do so. For probably a few weeks, I will just leave that open. And after that, I will have to close it for all kinds of copyright issues that I want to make sure nothing is going wrong with that. And that's all for now. And again, thank you for the opportunity. I mean, I feel blessed to be with you.
That's really terrific.
Can I just ask you one question?
Go ahead.
Sure.
After COVID, I'm planning to be in Jerusalem. And how can I get in touch with you for a tour?
Yeah, I will send this information to Bertha. Right now, I can write my email in the chat, but even if you don't copy it right now, don't worry. She will send it over to you.
I just want to say, if anybody's interested, I do have Itamar's email and a lot of other information that I can give you.
Yeah. I think, Bertha, I'll just send you one email with all the links, and you can pass it on. That would be great.
Terrific. So let me just briefly ask them, nothing to do with Hebron, but what are you doing with all the other tour guides? You said you trained and to do the virtual. How's that been coming along?
Yeah, so I'll just say that we started as, everyone were shocked from the magnitude of this crisis, of course. But some of us, after a week or two, understood, okay, this is going to last very, very long. We have to do something about it because we want to make a living, and we don't want only to rely, on the different benefits that we do get from the government, which is great, but we want to do something proactive in the face of this crisis. So I started giving virtual tours in late March, early April, I think like 2 weeks into the crisis, about bats and about the Temple Mount. It was bats, because COVID came from bats and all that. So I made a program for children, a program for adults. And like within a month or two, I found out about 50 tour guides that were struggling. Many of them were just struggling, not necessarily successfully, but they were struggling to make tours, virtual tours, not just lectures, but virtual tours. And together we started a thing that the best way to describe it is a Beit Midrash for virtual tourism. It was really like a yeshiva for virtual tourism. And we were studying day and night and asking questions to each other, technical questions, content issues, copyright. We were dealing with everything. And within few months, we got so much information of how you can do that, how the aesthetic's supposed to look like. And because between us, 250 guides, at this point, we're talking about 250 guides. I was training 200, but there are other 50 guides that we started together. And between us, we speak more than 15 languages. So we can make Israel accessible in 15 languages to, we're talking about hundreds of different destinations and virtual tours in Israel at the moment. So we do want to make Israel accessible for our brothers and sisters, of course, in the diaspora, but also for anyone who is interested in Israel, whether they are Christians or Muslims or anything else, okay? Anyone else that is interested. And this became, for some of us, not for all of us, but for some of us, became really a source of income in time of crisis, a source of income that really keeps us not just motivated to keep this profession. Some guides kind of forgot how to guide. Within 1 year, you don't do it, you lose it, you forget the information, you forget the places in a way. So we are very much together in that, and like we were guiding all year, so we really feel ready for like we're ready to get the audience back, the tourists back. And again, we didn't want to rely on the benefits of the government. We wanted to make sure we're independent, we have our own self-esteem, and not just we're incompetent to do anything. Okay. And I must say, and this is something that didn't surprise me, I must say, but it was still beautiful to see. I think out of the 200 guides, all of them are certified guides in Israel. These 200 people that I was training, I think the average age was more than 60. More than 60. And these people, these very, I would say, experienced, to say the least, experienced tour guides with huge knowledge and talent to deliver Israel, to be good ambassadors for Israel virtually, they struggle with their technophobia and their fear of these technicalities of how to do that. And they fight and they win. And this is something for me that it was such a blessing to see people, taking responsibility for themselves, for their family, and they don't just give up. Well, I'll just sit lazy at home and won't do anything. No, I get benefits, I won't do anything. No, they were struggling and they prevailed. Really, I really see that. Some of them are really breaking through, and to do that when you're a grandfather or grandmother, and you during COVID, you probably know that the kids ask you to keep the grandchildren, maybe, stuff like that. No, they said, I have job to do. So this commitment is something that I cherished, so yeah, this is my a little bit of my experience during this COVID year, which in a way was very bad for the world, but we got some blessing out of it, although it was difficult.
Somebody just asked, is this too appropriate for sixth graders?
This particular one?
Rena, did you mean this particular one? Rena Kegel asked that.
Look, I can do these kind of tours for children, maybe not the age of 6, but maybe at the age of 10 or 12.
Sixth graders.
Sixth graders. Yeah. Sixth grade. Yeah, they're 12. Yeah, sure. We can definitely do something like that for them too. I work with children all the time, with students, with all ages. So every tour that I give, just do a little fine tuning and give it to the audience the way I find fit. I have many programs like for Independence Day, for Passover. I did the whole tour of the Exodus. For Purim, we were traveling Iran virtually because, the story of Purim is not here. It's in Persia. So we were traveling to Persia virtually, and we visited the museum in Tehran, and we're visiting Susa, that's ancient Shushan Habira, the Shushan. So virtually, you can do everything. There are no boundaries anymore. Yeah. So this is just a little taste of what virtual tourism could possibly be. And Carol, I saw your hands.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I hope that this continues even after COVID goes away. There's many people who can't go to Israel or to some of the places that you're suggesting. It would be wonderful to continue this.
Look, I can tell you that in 2019, I had the honor to film take a video, a 360 video, okay, 3-dimensional video of the old city in 2019. And back then we understood virtual tourism going to make Israel and the world accessible for those who can't travel because of old age, because of disabilities, because they can't afford traveling, because they don't have time, because whatever reason, people who cannot travel, we understood that in 2019. So at least for myself, I can say I psychologically was ready for this crisis because I understood that virtual tourism is going to be great. And it's going to make the world accessible, no geography anymore. People could move around and travel around. And me, I've never been to Iran, clearly, and I was just roaming around there with Google Earth and different photos and different videos in the palace of Xerxes, of Ahasuerus. Yeah, so this was something remarkable. So again, I believe it's here to stay, Carol. I can assure you that.
what do you say at the end of Pesach? L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim.
Absolutely. So Lashana Haba b'Yerushalayim, not necessarily virtually, I hope.
No. And I'm no youngster, and the first place I want to go is to come back to Israel. Would be my
You'll get a big hug.
It would be my 10th trip.
That's great.
This was, again, this was wonderful, and I thank you so much again.
It's my honor.
And you know, in the near future, hope we can take another tour.
I'm here for you, ladies. I want you to feel absolutely comfortable to reach out to me and to ask me about the different tours. I will send you again, Bertha, a few interesting links, and you can share that, and people could join different tours that I give. These are open. Some of them are open tours that I give, and you can join it as well.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, all your time, and
Thank you very
inviting
much.
me.
See you tomorrow, Elaine.
All the best.